All right, so the line between reality and imagination just got a lot thinner. Everything you're seeing right now is 100% AI generated. Like, that is literally my mom's dog walking out of a spaceship in front of the frickin' White House. Absolutely mind blowing. As you may have guessed, I've got early access to Google's new video generation model, VO2, inside of this tool called Video Effects. And if you followed me, I have tested every single video model out there, and nothing comes close to what Google DeepMind has dropped. So I spent last night going crazy with my community, trying all sorts of crazy prompts. And I want to show you what we came up with because there's some really amazing stuff in here that'll actually give you a sense for what this model can do. But before we do that, let's get the details out of the way. So the main thing in my mind is this model can natively output 4K. If you used any other video generation tool, right? Sora, Luma, whatever it is, you end up exporting your clips into some other upscaling tool, whether that's Krea, Topaz, what have you. This model can do 4K natively. That's amazing. Way better at physics and actually following the prompt that you give it, aka prompt adherence. And it's not just me saying this. Meta actually released this amazing benchmark called Movie Gen Video Bench. Basically like 1,000 prompts that cover a diverse set of subject matter. So when you have human raters look at the output from all of these top video models like Meta's, Kling, Minimax, Sora, VO comes out on top. What's also cool is that VO2 now speaks cinematographer. You can ask for a low angle tracking shot, 18mm lens, and put a bunch of detail in there, and it will understand what you mean. You suddenly don't have to reverse engineer what the model thinks something should look like. You just ask it with terms you already know. You can ask for very complicated movements, kind of like this where you're looking at the speedometer in a dashboard and then have the camera pull up. Speaking of generations, let's get into what the community came up with because there are some wild clips in there. All right, so this is one that I started off with. I want to have a police officer interrogating a stormtrooper in front of a Starbucks, and it got all of the details right. I'll show you a little bit later how I made this clip because it's actually a cool experiment, but for now I want to show you a bunch of other stuff. Product management homie Peter Yang asked for a cute Godzilla-sized corgi terrorizing Times Square with people running in all directions, and obviously it is not exactly Godzilla-sized, but I mean, pretty freaking good if you ask me. It's so funny, especially the people just like losing their minds running around with just trash everywhere. And what happened back there? Like, did the corgi just fart? I don't know. Latent space can be weird, y'all. Let's keep going. All right, so Richard over here asked for a really cool prompt. Basically this like drone on the water. Here's what VO came up with. Really cool. Including the logo that he asked for, perfectly generated on the side over here. All the sensors, like this looks like a LiDAR, sonar, all sorts of crazy sensors. Very realistic. The water looks good. The reflections look great as well. All right, so Sean over here asked for a fisherman on a wooden boat. Basically like in a very choppy ocean, you're out there fishing and the results are still really good. Let me show you this in more detail. Yeah, I mean like the string is a little wonky, but oh my God, it is very cool. Here's what Sora came up with in comparison. I agree with Sean. VO2 feels a lot more coherent because cameras like wish-washing around, you've got a bunch of different shots. I don't know. I feel like Sora doesn't really follow your instructions. All right, let's keep going. So one little coder that has a great YouTube channel asked for this prompt that he likes to try, this like lone warrior. And oh my God, like homie be chopping stuff up. Clearly there is video games in the training data, right? Like Google owns YouTube, so that is not a surprise to me whatsoever. And yeah, I agree. It is multiple times better for the same prompt by Sora. All right, so Tony over here asked for this establishing shot of this like basically a spaceship flying over like this crazy beach area. Really cool generations here. Again, like no video game UI in this one, and we've got the ultra wide aesthetic, but it looks really good. All right, Kashiv, who is a emergency physician, asked for a very detailed prompt, basically something that you might get in like an ER TV show, and apparently it looks pretty good. Probably good for a quick glance. I mean, I kind of agree. Like, homie like annotated this stuff up too. Here's a bunch of other clips that it generated. Of course, to get really good rendition of these kind of like accurate factual details for, let's say, a medical profession, I think you're gonna need a lot more than what's on YouTube. You probably want to fine tune VO on some medical data sets, especially with close-up views of all of this stuff that he's highlighting. So Gary Dhar asked for this like futuristic city at sunset, and a bunch of people were joking that it basically looks like Dubai. Though it's kind of wild, right? Like it asked in the prompt, we're asking for people and you get really good generations out there. Really good reflections. You've got the sunset that we asked for too. And here's more of an aerial perspective with cars flying in the sky. You've got a bunch of these like Jumbotron monitors that look kind of like Times Square. Really, really good results. So Lang Lang asked for a very cool anime prompt, anime style maid with cat ears sitting on a couch. Very detailed description of like this maid outfit with a ribbon tie. Ears are fluffy, prominently perched on their head, twitching. Very cheerful and welcoming expression. And I mean, you be the judge. Like this absolutely nailed it. You've got the twitching in the ears. You've got the like really welcoming expression. I mean, it actually looks better than most VTubers out there. The moment Google adds the ability, kind of like Runway, to basically like record a webcam video of you and like transfer your performance into these characters, absolutely wild. And so until Google rolls this out, you can obviously use Runway's Act 1. Basically, you can transfer your facial performance to whatever other character that you've recorded. Kind of cool. All right, so Spaceman wanted this like found footage of Pompeii. You know, this is a very popular prompt, right? Like old footage that was discovered. And here's the results that we got. Very, very cool. Seems like accurate to the time period. Now, I'm not a freaking historian. I'm not going to go fact check this, but it looks pretty freaking plausible to me. I love this shot just cutting through like this village market over here. And apparently the results are way better than Sora. I'd actually say Sora didn't do a bad job here, Spaceman. Oh yeah, the people kind of, yeah, it's really weird. Like if you look at like the girl over here, just kind of like the legs disappear and kind of goes off into oblivion. Sora Turbo definitely does like kind of the jump cut stuff that I described. But in general, it tends to be really bad at physics. And I mean, like the hippopotamus example that I gave you pretty much is like the case in point. Where in Marquez's prompt here from his review of Sora, if you ask for a side-scrolling shot of a rhino walking through a dry field, I mean, Sora has no idea what the ground plane is. And it's just like warbling around, flying around, jumping around like a magical unicorn. Whereas Vio, this is the first generation I got, locks on it immediately. And it even understands like the gaming language of a side-scrolling shot of a rhino. Absolutely locked onto it. Very, very cool. So the homie Matt had a really good generation here too. You can see like, it's absolutely wild how good this looks. It is indeed something that could be straight out of a Safari documentary. Probably because it is. But let's keep on keeping on. The homie TCP wanted something a little bit funnier and asked for this like GoPro shot of Pepe the Frog in swim trunks riding waves in a human cell. I mean, don't ask me. I am just delivering the goods over here. Ran it through. Amazing. You've got basically like GoPro style footage, but it's CG. You've got Pepe wearing like the board shorts. Oh my God. The interaction of the freaking surfboard with the water is phenomenal too. The reaction by some of these folks cracked me up too. Google is back. They're the king of AI video now. So Rich, a partner and analyst over at Lightshed, asked for a hilarious prompt. Middle-aged woman in the Midwest in a middle-class home walks up to her living room TV set, reaches behind the TV and basically cuts the cord, like a cord cutting shot. And I mean, need I say more? Absolutely nailed it. You got the reflection, goes behind, cuts it to, when it cuts it, like it doesn't, you don't see like the wire dropping. That's my one nitpick, but I don't even want to run this prompt through Sora because it's just going to be a freaking mess. And yeah, like, I mean, Rich agrees way better than Sora. Let's keep on keeping on. I think we've established that at this point. Sora might have had a bit better model like before they did this like distilled turbo version. But as far as what's accessible to us, it seems nowhere close to what Vio has. All right. Yeah, and it's funny, like a lot of people ask me, like, ho, did you really think Google was losing the AI race? Nah, homie, since 2023, I've been saying this. When it was very unpopular to be on Google's side in any of this, people were just making like DEI jokes and like Google search is dead, Google's fumbling, innovator's dilemma. Let's be honest. Google has access to the most complete models of the physical and digital world. Like, this is obvious. And now you're just seeing this on display. Anyway, so I've been talking about this for freaking ever. I'm glad everyone else is catching up. But hey, at the end of the day, this is just competition, and it's going to be great for all of us because Runway is going to do some dope new stuff. Pika is going to do some new stuff. Luma, OpenAI, the list goes on. All the Chinese companies that are just absolutely crushing it. Like before Vio came out, I thought America had lost. But with VO2, Google DeepMind gives me hope because until this, honestly, like Minimax and some of these other tools were just absolutely crushing it. And I mean, this is not a surprise, right? Like it is not a coincidence that generation quality is almost exactly proportional to how scared the parent company is of getting sued by media companies. And so in China, they're training on practically everything. But Google owns YouTube. And so even if you pull out a bunch of the copyrighted stuff, that is still a massive, massive corpus compared to what anyone else has to train on. But what's also interesting is China has way better annotators. So you've got actual film students that are taking a look at the training data or looking at the generations and captioning exactly how they would prompt it out. And as Martine from A16Z puts it, this is another bitter lesson we have to learn, right? Since you've got a bunch of operators overseas that are labeling all these data sets, these models are effectively smart people caches, right? And so if you've got smarter people doing the labeling, you're going to get better results. And it looks like that's another place where Google really took the time. Whether it was human plus AI, I don't know how they captioned it. I would guess they just had like Gemini caption the damn thing. But whatever they're doing, whether it's prompt engineering or otherwise, you can prompt these models far more intuitively. And I think there's something really magical about that. All right, let's keep going. All right, so Restructuring Democracy asked for like a cat inside of a bottle trying to escape. Didn't get it perfect, but the fidelity, oh my God, the reflections, the refractions, the eyes, I feel like it's almost actually already escaped. But I have to imagine this is where like the boatload, the motherload of YouTube videos about cats are probably helping out. On that note, let me just fix my whiskers a little bit. There we go. So Yosin asked for a really detailed prompt about Medusa here, juggling different kinds of stuff. There's like this Gaia angle and 4D hypersphere. And at the end, you've got text that says Finn. And it's like kind of did it. I don't think it totally understands what a 4D hypersphere pan out is, but everything else it kind of followed. Greg, another awesome ex-Googler that's doing like Vision Pro stuff, basically gave me a very pithy prompt, quantum loop gravity. It's pretty cool. Like the rendition of text, it's even though it's like completely meaningless, is freaking amazing. It's like, I could imagine you making really cool motion graphics visuals with this model. Ravi, another amazing Vision Pro developer that's doing stuff with immersive media, asked for this test that he likes to run on other video models. The ancient city of Madurai in the Sangam period of India, where the citizens are walking the streets. And here's the result that we got. Pretty freaking cool, if you ask me. And what's awesome is like Ravi agrees that there's no like random modern vehicles like mopeds and scooters and things like that running around. Doc Lyle Dennis over here also had a really weird prompt, basically a 90-year-old lady with a body shaped like Big Bird, flowing blonde hair, side view, walking unsteady on the street along Victorian houses on a sunny blue day. She stumbles off the curb and falls. And basically we've got everything over here, including the Victorian houses and the wobbly walk and the shape. Wow, that is like an abnormal shape. But as Mama Ninja put it, graciously, AI kept her on her feet. Thank the Lord. Let's keep on keeping on. So Raja asked for a majestic Garuda with lightning flapping its wings. And again, like just nailed all the details. Really, really good. It does look like weird, kind of just like standing in position there with the background not moving. Like there's no parallax. It's like it's just hovering in place. And VTOL mode is activated, if you will. But hey, I'm nitpicking. All right, so KJM had a pretty freaking funny prompt here. Basically like a football stadium in the middle of Miami, Florida, alligator on the ice. And of course, it's an ice hockey game inside of a football stadium. And you be the judge. We've got the football stadium vibes over here. It's definitely an ice hockey game. And yeah, you've got a freaking alligator in the middle of it. Here's another like aerial shot. So this is what I mean when these like cut shots happen in the same generation. It is so consistent. Like this looks like the exact same stadium down to like the signage on the advertising signage on the fencing over here. Very, very cool. So Digital Manta obviously asked for this like transhumanist prompt, basically like a human and robot facing each other and they touch fingers and they merge into one. VO did not do the merging, but you definitely got the boop. There's a lot of booping happening, especially in the next video that I show you right over here. Boop, boop. Yeah, pretty cool, isn't it? And there we go. Like kind of adheres to the prompt, like right at the end, boom, a jump cut to give you the same output. Very cool indeed. Yeah, and this is Sora, by the way, in contrast. The lens flare is kind of cool, but it honestly looks like weird 90s visual effects. I don't know. It's like, I think this is probably a bunch of synthetic training data that OpenAI has generated. All right, let's keep going. So Priceless, the kid here, who is the father of Dobermans, asked for a bunch of doggos. And wow, like this is where the physics really, really look good. I mean, we've got slow motion. We've got not too much blurring. And shadows look good. They're falling on the grass over here fairly accurately. Here's another generation. I mean, these dogs just look freaking adorable. Like, this is another thing where YouTube has a huge advantage. There's like so many dog videos that are sitting on YouTube. Obviously, that's going to contribute to a much better model. And of course, they're Google DeepMind, so they've got the best scientists and a boatload of compute to throw at this. I was waiting for a Cthulhu prompt, and so Xander did not disappoint. So Cthulhu's brain slowly leaks out flower-laden tentacles. I think that does a pretty good job if you ask me. And again, this is what I mean. Like, I think motion graphics, if you're doing video essays and things like that, I think you're absolutely going to love VO2. All right, classic cyberpunk prompt. Addy asked for a futuristic city where robots outnumber humans, drones fill the skies, humanoid robots walking the streets. Really, really good. You've got humans, you've got robots. No weird directionality. This person is kind of walking backwards, though, and the drones are kind of weirdly just orbiting there. And they all look like DJI drones. I think there's a problem. There's like way too many quadcopters in the training sets for all of these models. You end up getting exactly this when you put in drone. Let's keep going. This is like a fun kind of slice of life generation. So Anand asked for ripples of a sun seen on a clear lake on a sunny day under blue sky. Old fisherman on one side with a wistful smile. And the generation is just really cool. You've got rippling in the water. Dude's like got this like really pleased expression. I can kind of see some of the caustics, like the light reflections and refractions off the water on the face too. And I don't know if that fishing rod is like doing physically accurate things, but hey, very plausible down to this lens flare on the side. All right, so Sai asked for something a little bit more complex that maybe the filmmakers watching this would be interested in. Self-driving car driving down Golden Gate Bridge, turns into a transformer-like humanoid, and then quickly jumps off the side of a bridge to save a dog who is about to drown in the water under the bridge. And this is what I mean when it adds jump cuts in, and you give it this prompt with a bunch of punctuations in it. The consistency is miraculous. So yeah, you got this futuristic looking car. There's the dog in the water. Golden Gate, here's the transformation shot. There's the dog again, different angle. And everything looks self-consistent. And so what I found is that if you make a couple of generations like this, and that's, by the way, exactly what I did with the intro, is if you make a couple of generations like this, you'll get a bunch of these clips. You just go into Premiere or whatever and do like scene edit detection. It'll split your clip into a bunch of smaller clips, and then you can recompose those clips to do something pretty amazing and cherry pick across a bunch of generation. It's almost like within 1 8 or 9 second generation, you're getting a couple at times. And there you go. You got the jumping in the water right here. So what I might do is like take the jumping in the water from this generation over here. I might take like this establishing transformation shot over here, the dog shot over here, and you've got exactly what Sai asked for. Really cool. I don't think any other model can do this because you just have like a slow motion mess. This one was another really cool one by Richard, basically a bustling metropolis in the near future where advanced technology and ancient martial arts coexist. So this is where I think like Gemini is probably doing some prompt engineering if you give it a simple prompt like this, because holy crap, like look at that. No blurring, you've got martial arts, and yes, indeed, you've got a futuristic background. The skin, the eyes, everything, the hair, the ponytail moving around, everything looks great. Okay, here's another fun one. Human skeleton guitar player strumming electric guitar aggressively at 150 BPM. That's beats per minute. So nail the frickin' skeleton playing guitar, especially with like, oh gosh, I love the neon sign in the background with a bokeh and sort of the like disco reflective outfit, like material on the clothing, the arms, amazing. The strumming's good. It's definitely not 150 beats per minute. It seems like it almost took like the aggressively part and put that into the camera movement. And so this is where a little bit of prompt engineering and refinement could probably fix this and pull this out of latent space beautifully. Let me walk you through a bunch more generations. So these are the rhinos, absolutely fantastic. I was trying to do this like motion graphics thing as well. A very simple prompt where basically I want to create like this futuristic RoboCop style advertisement for this like Palantir style product, basically like highlighting select members of the crowd down in the generation over here. And it did a really good job of giving me certainly the text, but also everything else that I could like cut up into sort of a crude facsimile or prototype of what an advertisement for this like Palantir-esque product might look like. And that's kind of what's cool about this is like we've been doing this with image generation models already where you use it as part of your ideation process. I think the same applies here with VO, especially now that you can do text and video interchangeably. Like, look at that generation. Some of the scale of the people is off, but the fact that it picked up, like I asked for semantic segmentation of the person. How cool is that? That it highlighted all of those people individually. I could easily cut this up into like a little trailer that's exploring what this might look like before we do it the old-fashioned way. So I think the demand for video is only going up, and this is going to be a net positive for creators. Yes, there are downsides for disinformation, misinformation, all that type of stuff. But I go deeper into that on the TED AI show where I interviewed the people behind the stuff. I tried doing other crazy like picture in picture. Let's say you're making like a military movie and you want to have like a drone shot of a compound and a soldier's like highlighting stuff. Well, you could do that too. This one was really cool because it highlighted all the routes for ingress and egress. That's the prompt that I asked for, and it like did a phenomenal job that blew my mind. Again, like for motion graphics, this is going to be absolutely awesome. Yeah, like the anime stuff really, really blows my mind. I think like if you take this and again, just use Act 1, something like Runway or Hedra Labs or something like that, and retarget the facial performance, I think this might be a viable path for YouTubers that are trying to do VTuber content. All right, so that was a bunch of cool community creations. Now let me show you how I made some of these videos. So what I've been using is this tool called Whisk, which by the way, you have access to in over 100 countries. If you're watching this, you can probably go play with it. And that gives you Imagen 3, their new image generation models, which is neck and neck with Midjourney, Ideogram, Flux, and a bunch of these other tools. So you can toss in a subject like a person, an animal, a thing, an object. You can toss in an environment and a style that you want to emulate. And then basically under the hood, they decompose each of these images into these like very detailed prompts, which by the way, you can edit. It can mash them all together and give you something like this. And then for that itself, you get another prompt that you can then go ahead and edit and modify. And that's what's really, really powerful about this, because what that allowed me to do is basically go take my old Midjourney generations, pull out subject, go to Google image search, grab some scenes that I liked, as well as some references for styles, and get something phenomenal without having to do a bunch of prompt engineering. And if I take something like this, what you can also do is click on refine over here, and let me say, make the background blue. And if I just say that, it'll figure out how to modify the prompt while locking down the seed in this refine mode to give you something much, much closer. And so that's how I can start at something that looks very cartoony like this. And so then we end up in a place where it's as photorealistic as can be. And so what I do is basically like I grab this prompt. They make it a little difficult right now. So I just inspect element and grab the prompt from here. And what you can also do is do text to image to video. And what this basically lets you do is break down the instructions that you're giving into defining the scene and then defining the motion separately. So let's define the scene first. We want to just generate this image, right? I want to show you that you can get a very similar quality generation because the same models under the hood. So there we go. Very, very similar to what we asked for over here. Let's just say I'm happy with this right now. Then I can go in here and say female soldier operating mech, dials and controls, glowing camera, cinema camera, slowly orbiting around the mech. And voila. And so then you can ask for a generation. All right, and then here's what I got out. Really, really good results. I tried modifying the prompt to have the background in motion, and you can see like, this is gonna be an absolute game changer. And so for example, here, when I asked for like controls glowing, you've got that weaved in very nicely in the generation right here. Very, very cool. And it's self-consistent, like down to like the reflections in the glasses. Like that actually blows my mind. So here's another example that I worked with. I wanted to have this like futuristic looking soldier standing in front of the San Francisco ferry building, like something out of like a futuristic Star Trek. And so I started off putting in my Midjourney reference, and I was very quickly using the Whisk tool able to reverse engineer the prompt. And then from that, basically, I placed it in front of the ferry building just by providing a background image of the ferry building. And my God, like the results were absolutely fantastic. And so let me show you this. Let me grab this itself again, and we're going to toss this into VO, just straight text to video, and let this run in the background. So then I gave it a sunset photo and absolutely nailed it. The text rendition too. So by the way, you could change this and say, it should say San Francisco, and it'll do a really good job. Then I went into modify and I was like, hey, I want to have it like talking to somebody, and boom, amazing. Hey, I want this like guard using a phone. Boom. Very quickly, you can get a bunch of prompts that will give you something very specific out of latent space. And that's kind of wild. By the way, I just wanted to show you how good the generations look over here. We'll say the person's ethnicity totally changed. Well, I guess we did ask for middle-aged men with dark brown skin rather than specifying African-American or something like that. But within these generations, like, these are very consistent characters, would you not say? And so like the moment they roll out fine tuning, so we can fine tune a certain like likeness of an object or a person or a place, it's game over. Like this is how you make cinematic quality movies on your freaking laptop. It's happening, y'all. And maybe the last thing I'll say about this is like, if you look at all of my videos, like they're all really good. I don't have like egregious failure cases in most of these. And so the hit rate compared to other video generation models, certainly compared to Sora, where you mostly get a bunch of this crap, and this is even like graceful. The front and back leg would be violently changing back and forth. And this isn't just Sora, it's like a bunch of other video models run into this issue. The hit rate for VO2 is the best that I've seen, which means it feels less like sort of slot machine AI where you're sitting there just like re-rolling the same prompt again and again and again and again and again to get that one nugget of gold. And by the way, that to me is the problem with Sora right now. Is like, if you really want to pay $200 a month, I mean, Hunyan, which is free for non-commercial use, is free. I mean, I think, and so that's the issue with Sora right now, is like to really take advantage of it, get 720p exports, longer generations, all the baseline stuff to use their like distilled faster model, you got to pay $200 a month. And in contrast, you've got a bunch of other video models out there already. Again, China's crushing it. So Hunyan is free. This is a model from Tencent. Absolutely amazing. So why would you go and pay $200 a month? And so, you know, it's funny, like, you know, you got folks like Tim Sweeney saying like, you know, Sora was like, oh, we're creating a world model. It's like actually like a world engine. And Tim Sweeney had this really funny joke, which is like, you're training a GeForce to like guess pixels and you're telling me it's a world simulator. And yeah, it's like very easy to make fun of it when this is what Sora generation looks like from the homie Bone GPT. But honestly, like this exact prompt, let's pop this in actually into video effects right now, just to see what happens. And here's what Vio did. Absolutely amazing. You've got their full reaction of like experiencing the umami. Really good physics. Holy crap. Good sip. Actually like eating it. Good diversity of subject matter too. Oh, that was a little warbly. I want to see that again. This guy's laughing too. This is so strange. My God. We're just strolling through latent space, y'all. Hasn't this been fun? And so, I don't know, I'm speculating over here, but what it seems like when folks like Tom were in the early access program for Sora, what they're saying basically is that, yo, the model used to be way better. And so it's unclear how much of this is like, you know, product and commercial counsel at OpenAI basically be like, yo, y'all can't train on all of YouTube. You need to pull a bunch of this stuff out. And no, you can't train on all publicly available data. Oh my God, that meme is going to haunt Mira Murati forevermore because, oh my God, it's iconic. But I don't know if it's about training data or if it's about them just making a cheaper to serve model that's like not as expensive. Because what I'm finding is like people are saying the generation time is much faster. Like in 10 seconds, you can get a bunch of clips. But the fact that even the $200 plan doesn't give you the bigger model to play with, that's just absurd. And so a bunch of folks like Pers and Blazane, like when they're doing video generation, basically they're saying that, hey, we tried to recreate some of the prompts that folks like Paul Trillo, shout out Paul Trillo, are basically, you know, shared earlier on. It's just like not even the same universe. So what does that tell you? It's a different model, y'all. And so, yeah, there's some holy crap moments. If you look at some of the other video generation tools, if you're recreating stock footage, stuff that's well represented in the training data, you'll get a great result. But when it comes to things like this, like Marquez's review of like, hey, phones materialize and dematerialize, Vio's just going to do better because YouTube, homie. And so, yeah, like as far as people saying like Sora is a data-driven physics engine, I mean, Chris is really throwing some, you know, fun jabs at Jim Fan over here, who's obviously iconic in the robotic space. It's funny. Like, I think what we were seeing with Sora is probably like either the bigger model or a combination of really cherry picked prompts. So that when people got it in the wild, all that hype fizzled out quickly. And people are just commenting on my posts like, Sora who? And the vibe shift is palpable. I will say this, some of the user experience decisions that Sora is making. So for example, you got the storyboard editor where you could basically add in a bunch of prompts, like describing different scenes that you chain together. So instead of right now, Gemini, like interpreting your prompt for video effects for VO and doing a bunch of those cutscenes, you can specify what those various shots look like. But again, UX is easy to copy. I could see Google copying this very quickly. The other novel feature that Google has not rolled out is Remix. And so Remix on Sora's side is very, very different, I would say, than video-to-video stuff that Runway does. And so basically, Runway Gen 3 has had video-to-video. Shout out to Cristobal for making this happen just because the community asked. It's kind of wild how responsive those folks are. So I am curious to see how they respond onto VO and Sora. So how traditional video-to-video works, it's basically like, pulling a depth map and it's maybe using depth and, edge detection for guidance, letting you reskin with pretty impressive structural coherence, like a video, like so in this case, like this video generation 3D scan that I did of the painted ladies in San Francisco, and basically reskinning glistening at night, blazing fire, snow-capped, right? Pouring rain, Lego Toy City. But as you can see in the Lego Toy City is really where it shows, it's still adhering to the structure of the video very, very closely. And so what that means is like a Lego piece wouldn't actually be this fine. You need it to get a little bit more blocky. So you almost want to reduce the strength. And so you can play with that dial in an interesting way with video to video. But back over here, what's cool about Remix is that it's doing the remixing in a semantically aware way. So it isn't just looking at the structure in the scene. So for example, here you've got a bunch of sand getting kicked up, right? And you've got obviously an SUV here drifting. If you tried to run this through video to video, it would try to squeeze the hippopotamus into the shape of the car, if that makes sense, even if you reduce the strength. But in this case, it is like in a semantically aware fashion, reskinning the video. And so you've got the hippo over here, maybe with dragging feet in the back, and really kicking up a lot of dust. And everything else in the background is very, very consistent. Like you've still got people standing where they are. You've got the tents standing where they are. And so that's what's really cool about Sora. And right now, anyway, the video effects doesn't have it. It has text to image to video. I suspect that's coming soon. And that's probably like figuring out how to deal with more nefarious content that perhaps people might upload to these platforms and not generating content for those. Sounds like Google is not super thrilled about the idea of the Drawer Brothers uploading a bunch of generations to VO and making another banger featuring all your favorite politicians. All right, so look, in summary, Google's VO2 is absolutely fantastic. Now, it is only available in early access, so you can sign up for the waitlist. I'll put the link down into the description or just freaking Google for it. But you can play with the image generation model that's tightly coupled to this system right now. So just go into image effects, just search for image effects on Google, find it, and also play with Whisk, the remixing tool that I showed you. It is very, very useful for storyboarding out stuff, learning how to prompt, or honestly, the way I use it, avoiding traditional prompting altogether. I'm so tired of picking up all this terminology and nomenclature that reverse engineers the crude way in which latent space is organized. I can now prompt in a far more semantically meaningful way, like a freaking human, like I would ask another human to do, right? Like if you're working with a human, you'd be like, yo, make this type of thing using this type of shots, and this is the kind of camera movement I'm looking for. This is the lighting. Here's what I've got in the foreground or the background. Like, what's the stuff that you put into a 2-column script? You can basically take that language now and toss it into VO, and Google Gemini just understands it. I'm really, really excited about the potential over here. Over the holidays, I'm going to be making a short film with all of these crazy AI tools, the Chinese models, the US models, traditional visual effects and 3D tools, mashing them all together to make something fun and sharing my workflow and experiences with y'all so you can do the same. I really enjoyed taking a stroll through latent space with y'all. Like that's kind of what it feels like. Like every time a new model drops, you try all these prompts out and we do it as a community. If that was fun for y'all, do join me on X. We do this type of stuff a lot over there. Of course, you can subscribe to my frickin' newsletter because of course I have one. And so that is spatialintelligence.ai, where you'll get a bunch of this stuff neatly to your inbox. And with that, Bilal signing off. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see y'all in the next one. Cheers.